Hello, and welcome back to Futuretoons, where we explore the intersection of retrofuturism and animation by profiling past depictions of the future seen in cartoons. Today's episode is a sort of follow-up to a video we did a couple months back, looking at the future according to Back to the Future. Unlike some other 80s movie franchises, Back to the Future has remained somewhat unexploited. We haven't gotten remakes beyond its 30th anniversary, and nostalgia for it really hasn't been milked dry. But at one time, it was one of film's biggest cash cows. There were theme park rides based on it, video games, and even a Saturday morning cartoon. Now, I feel like the trilogy wrapped things up nicely. The DeLorean was destroyed, the one that appears in the series is new. Doc had a family, a time-traveling train, and it's open-ended. We were free to imagine where and when they might travel to next. The series does make sense, though. Time travel opens up a ton of possibilities in terms of episodic television, and animation is a relatively affordable way to send characters to any place or time. Like the films, the show was created by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. It was produced by Universal Cartoon Studios and Amblimation, Steven Spielberg's venture into animation. Who Framed Roger Rabbit shared a ton of talent with Back to the Future, and its success led to the formation of Amblimation. The studio was also responsible for the American Tail sequel, Fievel Goes West, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, and Balto, as well as the American Tails television series. Back to the Future, the animated series, has an interesting airing history. It premiered on September 14th, 1991 on CBS, where it ran until December 1992. 26 episodes spanning 2 seasons that would air on ABC from 1993 to 95, and then again over a decade after they were produced as part of Fox's Fox Box in 2003. It also ran on Nickelodeon from 2003 to 2006. Its format was similar to the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, with live-action bookends hosted by Christopher Lloyd. Bill Nye, in his first TV role, starred in a recurring segment where he would demonstrate easy at-home science experiments, lemon batteries, magnets, that sort of thing. He would also break down basic science, explain how things work. Despite more or less hosting the show as Doc Brown, Lloyd did not provide the character's voice. This honor went to Homer Simpson himself, Dan Castellaneta. It's a pretty good impression, but when he gets angry, you can really hear Homer. Still a great job. Mary Steenburgen and Tom Wilson reprised their roles as Clara Clayton, now Clara Brown, and numerous members of the Tannen family. No Michael J. Fox. Instead, David Kaufman steps in as Marty McFly. Some of you may recognize him from Freakazoid and Danny Phantom, for some of you younger viewers. The show is not considered canon, but rather an alternate timeline. It follows the adventures of Marty, Doc, and his family, Clara, Jules, and Vern, who now live on a farm. As it is geared towards children, Jules and Vern are featured more prominently. Both are precocious, but the older Jules is portrayed as intelligent, where Vern is more adventurous. Like the movies, the series villains are ascendants or descendants of the Tannen family, Biff, Griff, Ziff. Most of the episodes revolve around traveling to the past, which makes sense. It's easier to find stories or work around events that have already happened. One episode finds Vern ending up in the American Civil War. He becomes a Confederate drummer. Another brings them to prehistoric times, pirates, Roman Empire, all sorts of different periods. I wouldn't call this show educational, but it is an entertaining introduction to a lot of historical time periods and scientific concepts. Apparently this was something important to producer Bob Gale, that kids could maybe learn something. So, you do get a lot of factoids, obviously the Bill Nye spots. I eat a lot of flack on here, sometimes, for what I dub retrofuturism. For some, that means simply past predictions of the future, and people have called me out, saying the Jetsons were not trying to forecast the future. But retrofuturism can be more than prophecy. It can be an aesthetic, or simply a depiction from the past of the future. Case in point, Back to the Future is full of quote-unquote futuristic inventions. Whether these are made by the family or were picked up on a trip to the future isn't always clear, but they are based often on convenience. They are reminiscent of the inventions seen in a lot of older retrofuturism, fantastic and absurd. I'm not going to list everything here, but some examples include a camera that dresses them in period-appropriate clothing. This is temporary, an illusion. It wears off after a certain amount of time. Marty, now in college, studies via interactive education, a teacher hologram. These are from episodes set in the past, or the then present, 1991, obviously now the past. I believe only one episode explicitly takes place in the future, Season 1, Episode 9, Solar Sailors. This is centered around Doc and Clara's anniversary. Jules invents a headline machine, which I guess can retrieve headlines from all of human history. He sees that 100 years into the future, so 2091, there is a tourist agency known as McFly Space Cruisers that is expanding their service to include trips to Mars. Believing this will be a nice romantic getaway for his parents, he gets them tickets, but a newspaper the following day reveals Ziff Tannen sabotages the cruise, and the kids set out to the rescue. We get pretty standard futuristic cars and architecture, glass domes, frivolous pointed structures. There are several uniquely designed robots that serve different functions: ticket taker, traffic control. One robot shrinks the DeLorean. Pausing on a parking sign, we see an hourly rate of $100 and all day for $1,000, which we are well on our way to, especially around tourist traps, theme parks, inflation, obviously. A newspaper also costs $85. Cars travel via the tubeway, which is a high-speed highway that is automated. Your vehicle is pulled through a series of tubes that directs you to your destination. A Dan Quayle Elementary School is mentioned, named after the then vice president. Kids have a field trip to a sort of aviation museum where we see previous models of the space cruisers, including the MSC Jennifer, named after Marty's partner. Like with the Tannens, plots revolve around new characters related to the central characters from the series, so the Browns and the McFlys. It's not explained who in the McFlys family started into the Star Cruise industry, but it is inferred that Marty is a famous musician. There are impersonators similar to Elvis. The cruiser the Browns ride on is the MSC Marty. Marta McFly is the captain, but again, none of this is really questioned or explained. The show was cancelled due to poor ratings, but the network was behind it with corporate tie-ins. McDonald's included Happy Meal toys, and yeah, that's about it. If you are a fan of the films, I recommend checking the show out. While it does skew towards a younger audience, it delivers great fan service, really opens up the universe. From a production standpoint, there is some excellent animation, tons of variety, lots of different and unique sets and characters. It's great. Let me know what you think. Feel free to chime in if I missed anything. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and if you have the means, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a new episode of Feature Film over there now, looking at Fritz Lang's Metropolis. $5 a month gets you access to that and dozens of other exclusive videos and series like Century of Schlock, breaking down 100 years of animated smut, patreon.com/picsandportraits. As always, thank you so much for your interest in this channel, and thanks for watching. See you in the future.